Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Leftover Pizza Podcast. Derek. Hi, Derek.
Ho, ho, ho. Did you get it? You get it?
You get it.
A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to be doing that for 24 hours straight on the Patreon on Christmas Day. And if you subscribe, you can watch me say that phrase from Christmas Story over and over and over again. Just like AMC, I'm here to annoy. So, welcome.
Very awesome. Not dressed as Santa Claus, though.
No, buck naked.
What?
No clothes on Patreon saying ho 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 for 24 hours. You're welcome. $3. That's all you need to get in and enjoy the show. You know,
This is going to be on our Patreon, not on our OnlyFans.
we don't have one of those yet, but if there's enough demand, and there will be, I'll set that up come January 1st. That's my New Year's resolution for you, Greg.
Create an OnlyFans. Oh, boy. So, there was one question I had to ask you, and I wanted to save it for this show. Did you ever, in all your beautiful years of life, circle gifts in a Christmas catalog?
I'd say most years of my beautiful life, save for that 1 year where I was comatose, and the doctor had to circle them for me. It was trying times, but we're here. Thank God.
That's good.
I pulled through.
That's good.
And I'm starting an OnlyFans, so life has never been better.
Perfect.
You know?
So you did for real? Like you have most years?
Yes,
aside
for
from
real.
that one?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all the time. I mean, the ones I specifically remember that I have very vivid memories of circling were the Disney catalogs. And I think that's just because that's what was readily available in my house. But basically, you give me any toy book, any Christmas catalog, I'm circling the shit out of it. And I am racking up a bill to rival the U.S. government, okay? I'll break out the inflation calculator. You will not believe the amount of spending and the deficit that I could try to put my parents in when I had that red felt tip pen just circling away.
Very nice. Well, I hate to admit it, but I've never done it. Never been there, never done that, bro. By the time I was anywhere near one of these cool holiday books, the Christmas and Santa Claus years were long done and over with for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, because they would just basically give these out as toilet paper. How did you avoid it for so long?
We used these for our ship paper. We didn't really bother with actual paper.
Yeah.
It's just more
off
economical.
grid is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
You're off the grid. Okay. Well, very progressive of you, but that's a shame you missed out on a very big core activity, I feel like, for a lot of us growing up. Not just in the 90s or the 80s or 2000. Like, this goes back decades. My parents were doing this in the 50s and 60s when they'd send out like that fucking phone book of a Sears Wish catalog. I know that they were doing that way back in 1960 something.
Yeah, they probably bought their house in one. You could do that. That's the thing. Not even a joke.
He probably did.
Yeah.
I know it's not.
Well, I'm happy that we get to experience this here now because I never got to. In front of us right now, we have the 1998 JCPenney Christmas catalog, and we're circling the best gifts. We do have some rules. We have a $300 cash limit, meaning you can go under, absolutely cannot spend a penny more. We're also omitting the taxes because taxation's theft. First and foremost.
It's theft and it's stupid, and I'm not contributing.
Yeah.
I'm not contributing in this fictional Christmas circling activity, okay? If this is my fantasy, the government's staying way the hell out of it.
And also, we're under the context that these items aren't already in our possession. So if you're buying a video game, you have to have the console. Purchase it in this catalog. We got to have rules. I mean, or we're going to be here all night just circling everything left and right. There's got to be rules, unfortunately. So
yeah, there's rules. So basically, we've got $300 to spend. Can't go over $300. We're not doing the taxes. We don't have to worry about shipping because we're just going to figure that our parents or whoever is going to go to the store and pick it out for us. So we don't have to worry about shipping. We're going to do 4 picks each, but there's a little wiggle room there. Like you said, you mentioned video game systems. That might come into play a little bit later on. I guess lastly, we're going to have a blast.
Yes.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to have a Christmassy fucking time here, Grimey.
For sure. We'll go over the final count, by the way, at the end as well, and see what kind of damage we did, just for shits and gigs.
$300. We want to see how close we got to that $300.
Yes. So, without anything further, what do you say we jump into this one?
Sounds like a plan, Stan.
Oh, no. Not again.
All right, Grimey, in this long year that we've had of 2023, not 1998, there have been a lot of events, world and local. And some of the most incredible things that happened this year, I'm sure you'll agree with me. Over the summer, we had supposedly some confirmation that aliens do indeed exist, that we are not alone in this universe. Just truly maybe not mind-blowing, but kind of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of fun stuff.
All them Blink-182 songs finally making sense. I totally get it now.
Yeah, the rest of the world finally caught up. And, I mean, hey, we know that aliens are as popular now as they've ever been. But it's not to say that they weren't also popular in 1998. We had things like the X-Files were really blowing up. I don't think Futurama had just started quite yet, but it was on the horizon. It was coming. You couldn't walk by a vending machine without seeing one of those little tiny 25-cent homie-style aliens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's more what I'm familiar with, is little the vending machine aliens for sure. And I feel like any carnival or fair, they would have the little blow up aliens. I mean, just aliens left and right. Everybody had something with an alien on it. Most people had fucking Lisa Frank stuff with aliens on it. You couldn't escape it back in the 90s. So I'm genuinely curious. What would you say is a popularized alien today? I'm curious.
A popularized alien today.
You said they're still popular today. I don't know if I'd say that, because no one gave a shit when the government was like, "Hey, aliens exist." They're
well, we had other stuff going on. We have Twitter now, I mean,
it's X,
we've got,
actually.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. No, we have social media. Why, we've got other things to look at, other pretty colors to see. Does Paul, the Seth Rogen movie from 12 years ago, count? That's got to count as aliens still being popular, right?
I never watched it. I'm not sure.
Don't.
Okay.
Anyways, all this to say,
what's your first pick, man?
Yeah, aliens. Pretty popular back then. And to prove my point, my first purchase out of the 1998 JCPenney catalog is the Alien Autopsy toy. I was having some real trouble finding information about this, because there's other versions of it that other people have posted online, but wasn't an incredibly popular toy. And I think it's because at the time of the catalog release, it was only $19.99. So a bit of a budget toy. Not anybody's favorite, not anybody's first pick, but I have to tell you, I think I've gone into it in the past on previous Christmas episodes, specifically with Gooey Louie, the game Gooey Louie.
Oh, yeah.
I really loved any sort of a toy that I could get my hands on that allowed you to pull something out of somebody or stick something into somebody. I don't mean to. You know what I mean.
Where's that? This sounds like another OnlyFans thing, bro. I just.
Well, that actually, maybe I'll get this alien autopsy for the OnlyFans, but wow. Anyways, so this alien autopsy toy, it's your classic little green man, but he's laying on this silver, very chrome looking autopsy table. And he's got a big slit in his belly, and there's spaces for organs. And I don't really know what the point of this game is, because if you look at the actual catalog, it says Alien Anatomy, no batteries needed. So this thing doesn't use power. There's no operation angle to it. So I don't really know what you're supposed to do here.
Yeah, this is very weird. I really do appreciate this toy though. It's giving Men in Black, where that dude in the guy's head comes out. It kind of has that vibe going for it.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you brought up Men in Black, because it does. It has a pre-Men in Black vibe about it.
I love this. I love the idea of digging and taking guts out of this little alien figure and putting them in these little slots. I appreciate that they're all like, well, they're bloody red looking.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, for a kid's toy, you think that all of these organs, it being an alien, maybe they would have made them like a teal color or a matching green or something. These look like man parts.
Yeah.
Okay? Man brain, man spleen. It's a little odd, a little disconcerting. And if you'll notice, above this alien's head, there's actually what appears to be, I think those are forceps. Like, they look like pretty legit forceps.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but all in all, the reason I picked it is because I know as well now that I would have liked it now as much as I would have liked it back in 1998. Like, this would have been a hit toy for me. Doesn't matter that it's not a particularly expensive toy. Doesn't matter that I have no idea what the actual purpose of the toy is. I just would have loved it. I would have just been picking at it all day, shoving things, the little organs inside of it, losing organs left and right. It just would have been a great time.
Honestly, this seems like a toy that would easily come out in today's market with everything from fidget spinners to sensory toys. You know what I mean? That's the big thing right now. And this could easily fit in that category. Put some like slime or something in it, some kind of, crinkly slime with some weird textures in it, and add the little body parts. I mean, you got yourself one hell of a toy.
I think you actually improved upon this toy with the idea of the slime inclusion, because that would make more sense here if this was a slime-filled alien and you needed to extract the organs from the slime inside of this alien's chest and belly.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I might try to find one of these and just fill it with slime, and then that's a Saturday activity for me.
I mean, it's a great idea. Great plan. Can I just skip work and do this?
You can skip work all the time and do whatever you want. It's a free world. Okay. You have free will. You can cut open aliens instead of going to work if you want. I'll let you. Your boss won't, but I will.
As long as you're allowed taking points, it's the only way you win is get points.
So just to quickly cap this off, not sure who made it. Don't know what toy company manufactured this. Like I said, not electronic. So I found somebody else online saying that this is a game, because there was actually a tagline for this on another version of this that said, "The game that takes guts to win," from an earlier 1990 version of this toy. But I don't understand how this is a game. I just feel like it's more of a sensory toy than anything else. And the last thing that I found on a Reddit thread, actually, so credit to Reddit.
Ooh, poet and you didn't know it?
Is that somebody thinks maybe it was at least partially inspired by, there was an alien autopsy TV special that released on Fox in the 90s. That was very popular. That got a lot of people to believe that aliens were real and that people had alien bodies in their possession, and that this, we were doing autopsies on them. You can actually find a bumper for this on YouTube. So if you just look up Fox's alien autopsy special, you can see what some are speculating to be possibly the inspiration for this toy. So a lot unknown. If anybody has any ideas about this toy or bits and tidbits, I would greatly appreciate knowing. But otherwise, I just want this toy for $19.99, and I want to stuff slime inside of it, and I want to have a great time on OnlyFans.
Deep under the Aqua Zone, where only the brave go, precious crystals are mined by Lego Hydronauts. Using their new technology, the Hydronauts will protect the Aqua Zone.
But in the shadows, a new enemy is growing. Stingrays. With crystal power, stingrays will destroy the Hydronauts, and the Aqua Zone will be mine.
Not if I can help it. The new Lego Aqua Zone collection.
Each set sold separately.
So the first gift I'm circling comes from Lego. It is the Lego Stingray Stormer set for $64.99, Derek. Have you ever seen this set before?
It's funny because I'm looking at it, and I mentioned to you that while I might not have had this exact set, I think I had something close to it growing up because it's very distinct. It has a character all its own, some bright neon pieces, and some minifigs that look exclusive that I feel like I had. So maybe I've seen it, maybe I had it. I don't know. The memory is a little fuzzy. But it's a great pick nonetheless, Grimey.
I appreciate that. Well, it looks familiar probably because they've done, oh my god, so many of these sets. I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. So there was a period of time where pretty much every Christmas, every birthday, I was asking for Lego. They did just about everything they could with like an aquatic kind of themed set. And those were the ones I was particularly drawn to the most. Stuff like your Aquanauts, your Aqua Zones. There was a set that was all shark based. It was called Aqua Sharks, I think. And there was another set, the Hydronauts, which was actually the hero set to these sets here, which were known as the Stingrays, I believe. But this one here, it's basically just like a big mechanical stingray, which is kind of fucking amazing. I mean, like you said, it's got all these really cool green kind of neon pieces. Oh, one thing I'll also mention, a lot of the Aqua sets got me if they had that like huge glass see-through dome on it. Like, what an awesome feature to have on any Lego set, period.
Absolutely. I mean, I wasn't one to really break my Lego sets apart and build things on my own.
Right.
I really liked keeping them as full sets. But if I were to screw around with some loose pieces, the pieces that I would always reach for to try to make something out of were the little clear domes that were meant for a windshield or a submarine view, whatever. It's just, they're really cool. Like, and I feel like they were more special at that point to us than maybe they would be now to kids now, because I don't buy much Lego anymore. But I see a lot of it, and they just do everything.
Oh man, they do.
Like, sets are so elaborate.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like Lego is breaking their own rules that were in play when we were kids. Like,
right.
To me, when I was really into it was around the time of the original Harry Potter movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember those Harry Potter sets when they first came out.
Oh, yeah.
But if you'll recall, the rules, quote unquote, more or less, at least when I was growing up, how I viewed it, were the minifigs. They all had to be like yellow skin toned.
Mm-hmm.
Like, every minifig was yellow. So the original Harry Potter sets, all of the minifigures had yellow skin. And I don't know, come like the later movies up until now, all of those Harry Potter ones that they're making now, they're all like proper skin tones instead of just like a yellow minifigure. Right. So even something as small as that, it almost feels like Lego has sort of broken their own rules now. Mm-hmm. So I know I went off on a tangent, but something like this set that you've picked, where it has a cool dome piece or a windshield piece, it felt so out of place at the time for Lego because they weren't really doing things like that. So it felt really special. is my point.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention all the newer sets though. That was one of the things that I listed here. Is like I would probably still be buying Lego sets and big pieces, but they're just so extravagant. They're so expensive now, and they do everything under the sun. And when I go in on something, I don't go easy. Like I just buy and buy, and I'm like, I could see this being super dangerous. I have no fucking room here. But like that whole Harry Potter set is looking awfully awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for its time. I can't imagine that this would wow any kids these days. But for its time, this was a really cool, unique, elaborate set. Unlike the standard Legos that were being released around this time or even before this, where it was really, really basic. So
Yeah.
I dig it. And man, a Lego shark, by the way. Are you kidding me?
Oh, they're all
amazing.
Good. All good. But this one, you could actually see on this page, if you're viewing it, that there's another one that's in the Stingray set. I believe it's called the Sea Scorpion. That's the other one. It's like the smaller one that fits with this set. It's, I think, a little over 200 pieces. The one I mentioned is 398 pieces. And it is, like I said, $64.99. The other one I think is like $24, $25. I'm trying to chip away at this a little bit bigger. You know, I wanted to go a bit bigger with this one, so I did that one. And not to mention, it comes with some really, really cool mini animals along with these little minifigures that they typically come with. There's like an octopus, a shark, and I think there's a stingray as well in there. And also these like really cool little green crystals. They look like little pieces of kryptonite. It's pretty fucking awesome. All around, a pretty awesome set for its time. And yeah, definitely circling it here for our list.
It's a good pick, man. It's a great way to jump into it. And not gonna lie to you, a little nervous. You're starting off with a $65 toy. You gotta watch it, pal. You got a limited amount of funds here.
Remember, though, we're being economical and we're not giving the government any of our money.
Let's do another sketch, and this is a fun one, and this has to do with food. But it's something that I like to do in cartooning because it's something that can't be done in real life. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to start with an egg shape. Right over here, a little bigger. And right here, a cube shape, which is actually a rectangle, so I guess it's a cube-tangle. How's that? And I'll carve some things out of this because this is going to be a carton of milk.
All right, Grimey. I told you I'm being very careful with my spending here because I know that I want at least one really big gift, so I figure I should get all the little small stuff out of the way first. Not quite a stocking stuffer, but, something a little more economical. Make sure that I'm covering all aspects of my next year after this Christmas. You know, I've got an alien that's going to keep me entertained after I put some goo inside of it. I really need to get better at how I'm phrasing things today. I just, So I've got an alien done. And now I'm thinking, I need something that's going to keep me creatively fulfilled until next Christmas. You know, some arts and crafts.
Oh, something artsy.
Some artsy stuff, I think. I think that'll be good. So, in my browsing for something a little more creative to maybe get my brain working a little bit, get the neurons firing, I stumbled across this How to Draw Cartoons kit for $14.99. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I was really quite a fan of an art kit.
Oh, man. Yeah, so most of my family members know me as like the kid that could draw back in the day. And naturally, they were like, I don't know what this kid's into. Just get him like a pamphlet of paper and some fucking pencils. And naturally, the progression went into these art kits. And most of them, they would be like a big briefcase, basically. And they would have like a sharpener, some pencils, both colored pencils and regular, and also pastels, paints, the whole 9 yards. This is part of my interest as a kid too. Like this is my thing. This is my jam. I'm there with you in both spirit and heart.
Excellent. Yeah, so same as you. I'm just going to throw you one big old ditto right there.
Yes.
from a very young age. There's some home video of me. I don't know if anybody knows. I don't know that I've spoken about it at length here, but not to get too into detail, but I had some and still have some big issues with my feet, which especially when I was a baby, I didn't have much mobility at all. And so instead of getting to walk around and crawl around like a normal toddler, I was sort of immobile. I had casts on my feet. I was delayed in that regard. So there was just a lot of, I learned to read early. I learned to talk early. I sort of replaced my whole physical movement with like mental stimulation, which is really funny because I'm such a dumbass now, you know. I lost it all early on.
It's all right, man. I'm right there with you.
So one of the things in this home video that I was mentioning that I really fell in love with and that I liked to do, I loved to draw. And of course, it started as just scribbling. This home video was actually from Easter, and I got some markers, and I'm sitting on my dad's lap with casts on and just scribbling away. And I was like, not even one at this point. Like, that was just what I did. And so it started there, and it carried straight on through to now. I still love doing art and things like that. But people realized from a very young age, oh, let's nurture the whole artist drawing side of this kid. He's good at it. He likes it. Why not? And so, of course, like you, let's throw some art kits at him. The thing is, I knew kids, because that was sort of a de facto gift for a lot of kids back then, were art sets. Mainly because I think it was just an easy gift to buy, and probably pretty cost effective. I mean, here we are on this one, it's $14.99, you know?
Oh, yeah.
If you can walk into a store and hand the cashier a $20 and get change back, and you have a gift for a kid for his birthday or Christmas, that's a pretty good deal.
Oh, yeah, perfect. And these art sets, by the way, they weren't anything really super extravagant. Like, when it comes to art, if you're not aware, like, you pay for what you get. You have to spend money on this stuff to get a good quality product. These things weren't it, but that doesn't mean that we didn't fucking love them with all of our being. Like, these things really made the holiday.
Exactly. And the thing is, so I really genuinely did love my art kits because it just meant that I had a whole bunch of brand new markers. Or I got some slightly nicer than average colored pencils. Or my favorite, I loved an oil crayon. I thought that was like the coolest shit ever. So I got quite a few of those kits growing up, and I was happy to get them. But what I didn't have was something like this, specifically a cartooning kit. And I went with this one because there were other kits, and basically the same kits that I had growing up in this catalog. But this one, the How to Draw Cartoon Doodle Tricks, it came with a VHS tape. And this guy with a great name named Bruce Blitz, in this half-hour VHS tape, you could pop it in, he would actually teach you how to doodle, how to draw cartoon characters. So with the power of the internet, I actually found this tape that this art kit came with on YouTube, and I gave it a watch. And I have to say, I would have ate this up if I were a kid. It's so cool. I mean, he does some really interesting stuff that it's all directed at kids, but he doodles in such a way that like I would never think to do what this guy does in it. Like, he'll draw letters and then make a doodle out of a K, or make a doodle out of a J. Like, one of them, he wrote joy on the paper, and by the time he finished doodling it, it was a dude listening to headphones. But it still said joy there. But it was like, it was cool, man. It's cool. It's a great kit. And at $15 to get an art kit and a VHS tape teaching you how to draw, that's like a value. That's a great deal.
It really is, man. Yeah, and those VHS tapes, I never had one myself. I remember watching a couple in school a few times, and they really do kind of get you pumped up for drawing, like just a little bit more than just reading a book. And I've had plenty of the how to draw books, but a VHS tape is just that much better than a book?
Oh, for sure. I mean, one of my fondest memories, I had just moved schools in 2nd grade into 3rd grade to the complete opposite side of my city. And one of the things that my parents did to sort of get me comfortable with that side of the city was they found out the library over there one night was offering a cartooning class. And so, not this guy from the VHS tape, but someone who was doing a very similar thing, hosted this drawing night, and they took me, and I had like the best time ever. That he's still the reason why I know how to draw Patrick Star off the top of my head, because of the way that this guy at the library taught us how to do it in one 45-minute class one night. So, this VHS tape had very similar vibes to that class that I attended, that one night, the community class. And, yeah, it would have been great to have when I was a kid. I probably would have eaten it up. It probably would have been one of my most played tapes.
Oh, yeah. Stuff that you keep with you for life. Like, you'll remember how to draw using a J or using an L at any time. I love that. Love that for you.
So one last thing about art kits, because truly, when are we ever going to get to talk about art kits ever again?
Right.
I'm about to make a very bold statement, and I just need you to go with me on this.
Okay.
But it's the truth. Art kits, they actually taught me proper gift receiving etiquette when I was a kid.
Really?
So, I've mentioned that I genuinely liked getting art kits. But I had a fair number of them because, again, that was the easy gift to give a kid who liked art. So, I was in kindergarten, and at this point, I already had a few of them. And I had just been given one for my birthday, a very specific art kit from my aunt. A few days after my birthday, my friend from kindergarten gave me a birthday gift. They came over to my house, and they handed me my gift, and I opened it, and it was the same exact art kit that my aunt had given me a few days before. And my reaction was, oh, I already have this. And my mother shot me a look like, don't you dare. Like, say thank you. Thank them for it. The problem being was I was actually excited that I got another one because I was like, cool, I have two, which means I just have twice the amount of markers, But, that's not how an adult read the way that it came out of my mouth.
Right.
And so she pulled me aside afterwards and was like, you need to just say thank you, even if you already have it, or even if you don't like it, and then we can deal with it afterwards. And I was like, but I did like it. And she was like, but why did you tell them that you already got that? And I was like, because I have two. And she was like, oh, okay. Well, don't say it that way. So the art kit is the only reason as a kid I learned how to accept a gift from somebody, and it didn't matter, and it's stuck in my mind to this day. I think about that moment where even if somebody gives me something I don't like, or I already have, or whatever it is, I go, wow, that's so great. Thank you so much. And then if I don't like it, toss it in the regifting pile.
Nickelodeon.
So in this particular catalog, there was 4 or 5 different really, really cool and iconic Nickelodeon products that most 90s kids probably grew up with. Unfortunately, I did not. So I had to pick at least one, and if I had to go with one, it had to be the Nickelodeon Time Blaster for $34.99. Did you happen to have a Nickelodeon Time Blaster?
I didn't, and you know what? I feel like might be a little self-explanatory, but can you explain what a Nickelodeon Time Blaster is?
It's a clock.
It's a clock!
That's it. Easiest explanation ever. It's legitimately just a clock. But it goes so much deeper than just a clock.
Well, of course. I mean, it's Nickelodeon. They're not going to put out just a clock.
Right.
They're not going to put out just a telephone, Grimey, or an AM/FM radio.
Yeah, I put in my notes that this probably sounds like the dumbest gift idea ever, but when you break it down, this thing is super iconic. You see it at your friend's house, and a majority of my friends did have one of these things, and it was mostly the Time Blaster. Like, I would get so fucking jealous. Like, why can't I have this? Why did my mom and dad not buy me the Time Blaster? And I don't really know if it does anything eccentric or anything like that. If it does any cool, like, I know it has a lot of bells and whistles on it, or at least it appears like it does. I don't know if it makes any noises or does anything really cool. All I know is that it looks dope. And it should have been in my bedroom when I was a kid.
So I'm reading it here. Nickelodeon Time Blaster alarm clock radio. 8 wake-up sounds of a bugle, cuckoos, boings, and nick noise. Nick, 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 nick.
Oh, we'll see.
Plus a marching band, rooster, and whistle wake-up. It's an AM/FM radio with a 9-minute snooze and alarm. Green slime LED display and power rod, the little lightning rod on the top of the device, flashes when the alarm sounds. Made of plastic. Of course it's made of plastic. So yeah, it sounds like it was a fully featured and kind of jam-packed.
All that and the fact that it looks like it came out of Dr. Frankenstein's lab. Like, this is an easy pick.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's the flashing lightning rod on the top of this thing.
It is, man.
And that actually wasn't exclusive to this. It looks like they also had that same flashing rod or a version of it over on the Time Blaster telephone as well.
Yes, very, very similar. So I know I talk a lot about my Goodwill finds. This happens to be one of them. I actually found 2 of them back to back. There was one year, it was about, probably 6-7 years ago before I really started collecting hardcore. Me and my girlfriend were at Goodwill here in town, and I just happened to see one. I was like, oh man, I need to have this. And she looked at me and she was like, I don't think you need that. And I was like, okay, all right. So I sat it down. I make another Goodwill trip there, like months later, and I knew it was gone already, so there's no way it would have been there still. Another one pops up. And again, I pick this thing up. Like, I need to have this. She's like, what are you going to do with this clock? I'm like, well, I'm going to set it next to everything else in my room that I set stuff next to. I was like, that's what it's for. I'll read the time on it, I guess. Again, sat it down. Did not pick it up. I have never seen 1 or 2 since. And these things, just so we're clear here, are not cheap at all right now. Like, you can find broken ones on eBay for like a couple $100.
I'm so depressed and disappointed.
Dude, I get that's the same exact feeling every time I walk into the Goodwill and I go to the electronics area and there's nothing cool
just
there.
Hoping that you're going to see another Time Blaster.
I shit you not, I do. Every single moment I go into a Goodwill, I check immediately just in case there's some other motherfucker in there picking a bunch of the cool, like, nostalgic stuff. I'm like, there's always one dude in there that's like picking through, and you could tell he's like looking at his phone and looking everything up, and I'm like, that's the guy who takes all the shit, and I'm going to get it before he does. But there's never anything there, so whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an absolute bummer of a story that you just told me. Way to bring the whole room down.
Yeah, the holiday magic is gone.
Wow. I really, really hate that story. Shame on you for telling it. Oh, grimy, grimy, grimy. I'm disappointed in you, and I'm about to make you disappointed in me. Are you ready?
Well, it's got to be sports. What's a leftover pizza show without sports, Derek?
Well, I've been told the least endearing part of all of our episodes is when I talk about sports. So I'm going to just keep bringing it up.
Okay.
The more you people hate it, the more I'm going to talk about it, okay?
This is Derek's thing. He's like kind of a contrarian.
I'm not a contrarian. No, I'm not.
Now you're just gaslighting.
No. You're crazy. I've never said anything on the
Never
contrary
said that.
ever in my life.
Ever. No, I legit, I like when you go off on your sports. Sports weren't the same then as they are now. You know, like we used to look at sports with such a different lens.
And I think that reverence is mainly due to lax safety measures. So we were having athletes just get beamed off the head left and right and get stupid forever, you know? I mean, but it was more fun that way, Grimey.
It was.
When we were risking bodily injury so much more easily than we are now.
It's
and when
true.
we didn't care about our He-Men's long-term wellness and health.
Yeah, this is true. And just a little side tangent here, just to prove your point. Me and a buddy at work were watching old UFC videos. There was a 600-pound man against a 200-pound man. It was fucking awesome.
Yes. And I'm sure that they're both fine and alive and safe and functioning.
It's true.
You know, I mean, nothing bad happened back then.
Yeah. So what sports item in this catalog are you bringing up tonight?
Now that we've talked for 5 minutes, I want you all to know that I've circled the Irwin Top Corner Tabletop Rod Hockey Game for a price of $79.99. That's right, Grimey. I'm splurging. I'm going a little bit above, my last few picks money-wise. I'm going a little crazy. I'm spending it all on sports. I'm putting it all on sports.
Reckless
Just
abandon, throwing all caution to the wind.
That's right.
I like it.
Many folks this time of year, I'm just putting all my money on sports and hoping for the best. Yeah. So basically what this is, if you haven't gathered, which you probably haven't because I've been talking about other things, is this is a tabletop home version of a bubble hockey game, which I know has come up on this show in the past. Specifically, I believe on the arcade show from, almost 2 years ago at this point, I want to say.
A while ago.
Yeah, so throwing it back, if you remember that episode, or if you know anything about me, you'll know that one of my favorite things to do when I find an arcade is hope and pray that they have a bubble hockey machine. If you're not in the loop, I think Grimey wasn't last time, so I'll do you a solid, and I'll re-explain it. Not just for Grimey, but for you, the listener. Bubble hockey is exactly what it sounds like. Think foosball, but instead of little soccer players, you have hockey players. And instead of a little foosball, little soccer ball, a little hockey puck shoots up out of the middle of it. And you use the rods to move your little hockey players around, and Grimey is losing his mind over here.
I'm sorry.
How I'm explaining it.
So I'm reading the description of this thing, all right? It's the dumbest thing ever. Plastic of steel. It gives the dimensions. Assembled in Canada.
Eh?
What are the odds?
Well, it would have to be, I think, for it to be authentic. It's got to be assembled in Canada.
That's
Otherwise, it's just not going to be built right. They know.
Yeah.
They know.
Only some of the parts imported from China. Assembled in Canada.
Only some.
Oh,
yeah,
it's terrific.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, it's just a miniature tabletop version of bubble hockey, one of the greatest tabletop arcade games to exist. And, there are other versions of this game in this catalog for less money, but I just like how this one looks. It looks very high quality, Grimey.
It does. This one looks beautiful. And I like this gift for two reasons. One, it is every bit as beautiful as you're mentioning here. I love that it's like foosball style. It does look really, really great, and I'm sure it plays great. The second reason, I love any chance to bring the arcade into the home.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the best of both worlds right there. Like, yeah, it would be great to go to Chuck E. Cheese or to a Playtime Pizza or what have you. But when you can do that at home, that's just a win-win.
Now listen, it was always a dream of mine to bring the arcade home into my home when I was a kid. And so I want to say for like 4 or 5 Christmases, I would try to find things that I could ask for where I could do that. I've mentioned it that the basement in my parents' house was more or less my playroom, and I was hell-bent on asking for things that I could turn that playroom into a quote-unquote home arcade. So it all started when I asked for an air hockey table. I want to say like in 2000 or 2001 maybe. And then after that, I asked for a pinball machine, which it wasn't a real big, crazy pinball machine.
Right, one of the little toy ones,
It was
probably.
it was a step up, interestingly enough, from the tabletop version that were very popular back then.
Okay.
I had like a Mortal Kombat one when I was a kid, the little dinky tabletop pinball machines. It was a step up from that. It actually had its own legs. It was still
nice.
small-ish, but I got a Spider-Man one, and it had like a little screen on it, a little LCD screen, and it had speakers, so like Spider-Man would talk to you and say, "Oh, you got this bonus, you got that bonus."
It's amazing.
And that's still up in my parents' attic, so I got to bring that down sometime because that thing was pretty cool. So my point being, I had an air hockey table. I got a pinball machine. At one point, I wanted skee ball, but skee ball was really hard to come by. There were no like home versions of skee ball.
Right.
What they did come out with was a home bowling alley, quote unquote.
Okay.
And the bowling ball itself was small, kind of like candlepin sized, and it would light up. It was like translucent, and the bowling ball itself would light up, so you could turn the lights off and play this bowling game. But the big tabletop versions of a bowling game where you take like the little ski puck and you like, it was like that.
Okay.
Because the bowling pins would just sort of retract up into the thing at the end of the alley. Do you know what I'm saying?
I
Like
do,
instead of having
yeah.
to set pins, it would set itself.
Yep.
So I had those three things, and then I always wanted like other things to build on that, but I fell off a little bit. But I did have sort of one of these tabletop hockey games. Not this nice though. This is definitely not professional, but like kind of as good as you're gonna get in that sub $100 range. So I say this because I would have loved to have added this to my little home arcade. That would have been a great addition and something I could have played with my cousins.
Yeah, you basically, back in your childhood, already made yourself a leftover pizza arcade. So props to you, man. That's awesome.
Pretty much. I was hell-bent, and I figured out a way to do it. It might not have been professional, and it didn't have to be. It was good enough. I had some good times down there with all this stuff, and the Irwin Top Corner hockey set would have helped with that a little bit.
Coming to video for you to own.
Yeehaw!
The good.
I am Archer, emissary of the Gorgonites.
The bad.
There will be no mercy.
And the odd.
That's so close. You'll ruin your eye.
Together in one movie with more action.
Open fire!
More excitement.
Oh, no.
And more fun
Uh-oh.
than you'll find in any other video this year. Small Soldiers coming to video November 10th, rated PG-13.
So, Derek, after its theatrical release in July of 1998, the movie Small Soldiers took up quite a bit of space in this particular catalog, if you hadn't noticed.
Oh my God. I remember Small Soldiers being popular back then. I didn't really know because I wasn't allowed to watch the movie. But holy crap, there is so much real estate being taken up by Small Soldiers merchandise here.
And like they were pulling all the stops, how most toy companies typically do. Anything that had already happened, they got the Small Soldiers take on it, basically. There was like the Karate Fighters that me and you both frequently talk about. They got a brand of their own, pretty much. All the stops. Did you ever watch this movie before, or what happened
I've
there?
seen it in bits and pieces, and I've been meaning to watch it in full as an adult, but it's just one of those things that I keep forgetting to get around to. I mean,
Okay.
I only just the other day watched Looney Tunes Back in Action after
Okay.
20 years of it being available, so it's on my long get-to list, but that didn't stop me from being obsessed with it when I was a kid. I actually had some Small Soldiers stuff against my parents' wishes, despite not having actually seen the movie.
I see. Well, when this movie came out, I was all the fuck in on it, way in over my head. I loved this movie, and in my opinion, it's totally underrated. But I think that's what makes me love it more is that a lot of people I feel like don't appreciate it. Like they're not into it as much as a lot of the other 90s franchises around that time. It's like this nice little hidden gem, and it really surprises me it didn't catch as many people's attention. It's like this Gremlins meets Toy Story kind of thing, and there's a lot to love about it. Anyways, we're not really talking the movie, we're talking the toys, and that is my third pick here, the Small Soldiers 6-inch figure 2-pack, featuring battle-damaged Archer and Major Chip Hazard. And if you're going to get any two figures from this line, they have to be Archer and Major Chip Hazard. They're obviously the two main characters. And for $20, I'm not saying no. These are pretty quality figures. I didn't have these ones specifically. I did have other ones in this set when I was a kid. But I do remember seeing these on store shelves. Like, if I could go back in time right now, I would definitely grab these off of the shelf. From the pictures, they look pretty great. They do have, like, kind of a Terminator effect going on, you know, how they have like some missing body parts, skin and stuff like that. Like there is that. The Major, he has like this giant weapon, which is featured in the film. It's like the little blade blaster thing, and it has a little knife attached to it on the bottom. You can kind of see on Archer, his hand is kind of ripped away a little bit, and there's some little green spots where toy pieces probably would have been. All around, these are pretty excellent figures. For $20, two 6-inch figures, you can't beat it.
So here's what I like about not only these figures, but everything I'm seeing from this section in the catalog. You mentioned Toy Story. Toy Story, one of my favorites, and at the time, the toys themselves were among my favorites. I was obsessed with the movie. I was obsessed with the toys growing up. I will say, though Toy Story merchandisers got most of the Toy Story toys right, some of them, depending on which ones you bought, were a little off here or a little off there. It wasn't uncommon to see a Woody toy that was sub the price point of an actual Woody doll.
Yeah.
And those ones, they always looked a little weird. Like they were stuffed weird, or they had a weird mold on the face. So sometimes the Toy Story toys, even though it was a movie about toys, didn't do a great job representing the toys from the movie. That is totally not the case here for the Small Soldiers line. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on any of these toys, whether it be the $20 for 2-pack, or it can go right up to, I'm seeing $35 here, $25 each figure for these 12-inch figures. They all look basically exactly how they do in the movie. Like, these are great representations of the characters from the movie. They look like they've been ripped right from the screen.
That's how typically all of these toys were, too. Like, I had a bunch of the base set when I was a kid. So you're like regular versions of Archer and Major Chip Hazard and a couple of the other soldiers, a couple of the other Gorgonite, the good team, whatever you want to call it. And they were all solid figures. They looked great. They looked like they just came out of the movie. The only downfall is that most of them didn't make like noises or anything. I know they had specific ones, like the Toy Story toys. They have ones that do all the bells and whistles, but it didn't bother me that much, to be honest. Like they were super fun toys, and to buy them nowadays, like I said, this is such a weird movie that it really didn't grasp a whole lot of fans, but because of that, a lot of these toys are like super expensive. I mean, you can't buy one of these figures for less than like $70 now. It's insane.
Yeah, so I mean, do a little bit of time traveling in course correct. I get it. You do that a lot. You want to time travel for your time blaster, time travel for your little small soldiers. I get it. I get it.
The Leftover Pizza podcast suffices for all of my endeavors. It's good enough to go back and pretend I'm going back at least.
Closest that you're getting, at least in this decade.
Jingle bells, Santa smells, Christmas really stunk. I got nothing that I like, my gifts were all just junk.
Boxes full of clothes,
CDs no one knows. When I wanted something for my Nintendo 64. Zelda's great, Turok 2, South Park would be fine. How about Rogue Squadron? That game should be mine.
Make up for a lame Christmas. Get the hits you missed on N64.
Mom and Dad, I'm so sad.
All right, Grimey, if there are two things that were guaranteed in this world, or at least on this podcast, one is that I'm bringing up sports whenever I get a chance to, despite me not watching them. And number two, I'm going to talk about video games. I'm always going to find a way to weasel a video game in if I can. And guess what? It's happening. I'm weaseling it in.
It's perfect, though. Like, I feel like no holiday is complete without the big console. You know what I mean? It just is awesome to get the console. Like, you see the big box in the back, and you're like, I'm going to save that one for last. And then you finally tear it open, and you're like, yep, this is the one.
So I'm doing a bit of fixing my past here, if you will, just like you were doing with Small Soldiers. And in this particular JCPenney catalog, I'll note that it was 1998. So while I think we got the Game Boy Color released in 1998, there were no big, as far as I know, home console releases that year. For this particular console that I'm talking about, it was actually released way back in 1996, so a full 2 years before this catalog would have dropped. So I am, of course correcting and picking a Nintendo 64 for the bargain price, if you would agree with me, of $129.99.
Oh yeah, that's a great price. And just so we're clear, I never got any of my consoles on time. It was always a year or two later. So like, this is pretty much on board with exactly what my family would do. So,
So it's funny. I did get a Nintendo 64 when I was a kid, but I actually didn't get it until, I want to say, Christmas of 2000. So if we thought that $129.99 was a bargain price, I can guarantee it was even lower than that when I got it from my uncle a full 2 years later. Around a time when the PS2 was just brand new and just dropping, and that whole generation was kicking off. So more or less, I was a full generation behind for quite a while. But I don't know that I would really change a thing. Thinking back, even though N64 games and that whole era of 3D gaming hasn't aged the best, I can say it was the first generation that I found myself absolutely obsessed with. I just ate, slept, breathed video games, in particular the N64 library. It was everything that I wanted it to be, and I loved it. I did. And if you gave me a choice between the two competing consoles at the time, the PS1 and the N64, I'm picking the N64 every time. Yeah, the PS1's great. It's got a great library, and some would argue even better than the N64. But nostalgia aside, I think the N64 just has some great games, and it's just capable of just some good times in general.
Yeah, it's a good one to start with too, by the way. Like, that's the one that a lot of people, I feel like, they came into the video game world and that was the one that they were obsessed with and still are. Like, they still have very, very tied memories to that specific console. And unfortunately, I wasn't blessed with one ever, but a lot of my cousins, a lot of my friends, they all had the N64, and I made sure I got mine, I got my time in with it, and it's still one of my favorite systems.
There's just so much there, despite, a lot of people complaining about its relatively small catalog. And, people will say that, but 600 games, that's kind of a lot to go through. Like, I don't think I could ever play 600 games if I wanted to.
It has 600 games?
600 plus games. I'm sure that there's actually more than that.
There are consoles that came out that only had 4 games to start with and only ended in 40 games. Like, 600 plus games isn't anything to sneeze at.
I think if we're just talking Nintendo in general, the famed, or infamous, I should say, Virtual Boy,
We're not going to talk about that.
That ended its run with like 12 or 13 games, so it's been worse, people.
Yeah,
Even with Nintendo, it's been worse.
Yep, that's true. Very true. Oh, the infamous Virtual Boy.
I love it. It's ridiculous and it's crazy, but it's they gave it their best shot.
They shot their shot,
They sure did. So really, the only thing that I would change about the Nintendo 64 would be getting it sooner. And this is 1998, so I would technically be getting it 2 whole years sooner than I would have gotten it. And I have to tell you, I think that those 2 years would have made a big difference in what kind of games I got, that I probably would still have to this day, things that I would have added to my collection. So, 1998, it's been around for 2 full years at this point, so it's got two whole years of catalog being built. There's already great games on this system. It launched with Super Mario 64. That's one of my favorite games of all time. I think it launched with Wave Race 64, which again, I loved that game as a kid. So we would have had games like that already out. But in 1998, here are some of the hits of the season of that particular year that we could have picked up alongside an N64 had I been able to get one. 1080 Snowboarding was released.
Good.
Banjo-Kazooie. Huge game. One of the biggest probably of all time.
Yep.
A personal one that I have sort of a guilty pleasure for called BioFreaks. I actually picked that one up a few years ago. It's not great, but it's interesting, and I like how it looks. Like, I like the concept more than I think I like the game. But probably would have loved it as a kid, honestly. I wouldn't have thought that it was a piece of shit, Cruisin' World, big fan of the Cruisin' series, and that was released this year. Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut came out this year for that system. F-Zero X, Glover, Mortal Kombat 4, One for Me, NFL Blitz was released that year for it. Quake, one of the most 90s games that we all just absolutely love. South Park was released for it. What a hit that was with all like the tween-age boys back then.
Yes, totally.
Everybody had it. Everybody loved it. Hard to play these days, but wouldn't have sneezed at a copy if somebody were to hand me one. Mm-hmm. Yoshi's Story, and of course, not that I'm a big fan of the series, but we can't deny its importance to basically the whole genre. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was released this year as well. So in 1 year, think about how heavy some of those hitters are. And just that list alone. That's not even a complete list. Those are just like the best of the best, the cream of the crop.
Hey, do you know what Ocarina of Time is in German?
Oh, boy.
Das Tuten Duten.
Take a lap. Take a walk. Get out of here.
I saw that on Facebook this morning. I just had to pop that in there.
Yeah, that's where it should have stayed.
It's just so funny. But yeah, man, there's several awesome games I used to love for the N64, and none of them appeared in this catalog. I'm pretty bummed, but just a quick shout out to one of my personal favorites, Mischief Makers. One of my all-time favorite N64 games ever. It's a fucking awesome game.
I don't know that I've ever played Mischief Makers, but I'm going to have to pop that one in.
It's so good.
I'll have to check that out. What is the gameplay style on that? Pitch me. 30 seconds.
It's a side-scroller.
Is it?
It's a side-scroller, yeah. It's a 3D side-scroller.
Okay, I love that. I love a platformer. I love a
Mm-hmm.
side-scroller. You've caught my attention. Mischief Makers?
Yep.
You got it. That's what I'll play after I finish beating Battle for Bikini Bottom on Game Boy Advance.
Okay, will that be before or after your second bottle of Glug?
Well, right smack dab in the middle of it, I'd say. Okay, so I think we mentioned at the top of the show that maybe we'd sort of be cheating a little bit because we said that we were going to pick 4 picks. That's kind of our usual format. But, Grimey, I still have some money left.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can't get yourself a video game system and not get a piece of software to go along with it, can you?
No, it's pointless. And vice versa. You can't get the game without the console. So, like, we're stuck in this little dilemma here, and this is how we're fixing it.
So I got some cash burning a hole in my pocket. I need something to go with my brand new, spanking new N64. I've looked over my list. I've looked to see what's available in the catalog, and I am spending my last $54.99 on a copy of 1080 Snowboarding.
Good choice.
Listen, 1080 Snowboarding is one of those games that I never had. And it was one of the rare instances where I actually rented it. And I rented it on more than one occasion. I somehow managed to convince my dad one day to let me rent an N64 game. There wasn't much to choose from, and I somehow landed on 1080. This was one of those few games that when I brought it home, my dad would actually play it with me. My dad actually liked playing this.
He shredded some snow with you?
Yeah, my dad
dope.
got a kick out of me playing this game. I don't know what it was. I kind of have a vague memory of him and one of my uncles having a preference if we were playing a game that was like based on something that you could do in reality. It was sort of like, well, I don't like him sitting in front of the boob tube, but at least he's doing something like snowboarding that he could possibly get out there and do. Like, I think he thought,
this is going to give you the initiative. Like, I'm doing it here and this is fun. Let's go outside.
I guess, maybe. And to his credit, not so much my dad, because my dad didn't think along those lines as much as my uncle did.
Okay.
But 1080 did intrigue me enough to want to snowboard. And while I didn't do real big boy snowboarding, like on a mountain or anything, one Christmas a few years later, I did ask for a beginner board. And I did shred down the little hill in my backyard on numerous occasions. So it's one of those instances where video games did influence me in real life a little bit for the better. So yeah, if I'm picking an N64, I'm picking 1080 snowboarding to go with it. That seems like a perfect pairing for me for a Christmas morning. So open up, sit down, play, and have a good time before I fall asleep under the tree because I had one too many glasses of Gluck.
From Sony's PlayStation come the greatest hits, all your old favorites.
Like the soft sounds of swarming missiles.
And the gentle crack of Sophia's whip.
Feel the hilarious antics of Sweet Tooth, that lovable clown.
All for just $24.99 each, but wait.
There's more? Oh.
That's right, the PlayStation is a mere $149, and you can also get leading titles.
Like Crash Bandicoot and Jet Moto.
For just $49.99 and less.
You are not...
All right, my last pick of the night. You picked a pretty big console. I'm going to pick one too, and that is the PlayStation 1, which hit in 95, we said, right? 95 it hit?
It had a full year, actually a little over a full year, head start on the Nintendo 64.
Wow, insane. Well, I only picked mine up, I think, in like 96 or 97, so I'm actually pushing mine further out, which isn't horrible. I mean, I still played the PS1 well into 2000, 2001, I believe. Until, of course, I got my hands on a Dreamcast. But, yeah, 3 years late here isn't too bad, I guess. So, the PS1, I played the N64, and I loved it. I was never able to get one. And then I think before that, the Sega Saturn came out. I played that, loved that, also didn't get it because of the price. This was pretty much the next logical step, and it just seemed like such a game changer in the video game world. Like I said, I played the Sega Saturn already. As soon as this hit, it really rendered a lot of that stuff useless. Like, it just didn't feel near as fun. It was very underwhelming, and the PS1 kind of, I don't know, it gave you things that a lot of these other consoles I felt didn't.
If Sega and Sega Genesis in particular, if that was the cool, edgy new system that was more, aimed at adults, PlayStation was a huge jumping off point, taking that idea and really just pushing it. Like, PlayStation, when I was growing up, I remember everybody telling me that I couldn't get a PlayStation. PlayStation was for big kids.
Big kids.
And so I thought it was sort of cool and also sort of scary in that regard, because it was like, what is on this that I can't play, you know? And whenever I would go to somebody's house who had a PlayStation, most of the time I don't even think I would play with them. I would just watch them, because it was always the older kids who had it.
Oh, yeah.
And part of that was probably them not letting me play, but part of that was also me being like, I can't play because it's for the older kids. So Sony was doing something really interesting and really different in how it was selling itself to people, because it was taking itself very seriously. Where everybody else was thinking that video games were for kids or at the most teenagers, PlayStation was like, yeah, your dad might actually want to buy a PlayStation. You know, like this could be something that your dad would want to get for himself. It seemed very mature and very grown up and very cool.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And for most people, this was their first foray into like the CD realm of video games, because I know that the Jaguar came out. Nobody got one of them. The
Sega CD.
Expensive.
TurboGrafx had a CD port or whatever.
I think Sega Saturn was $399 or something like that. When the PS1 first came out, it was $299. There's actually a press conference where the people from Sega America and Sony were in the same press conference room or whatever. Sega went and did their whole spiel, and they were like, yeah, the console's going to be $399. The Sony rep actually got up on the podium. The only words that came out of his mouth, $299. Yes.
Dude, I just watched that yesterday. Rest in peace, E3. That was at one of the first E3 conventions.
Yep.
How legendary.
Absolutely shattered the world, dude.
How can you go up at like our Christmas list aside?
Yeah.
How can you go up against a company like that? The balls that they had at that point.
Dude.
Because don't forget, Grimey, the PlayStation is born out of Sony trying to work with Nintendo and being like, hey, do you guys want to make a console and we'll handle the CD portion and it can still be a Nintendo console? And Nintendo was like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yep.
And Sony was like, you're not going to do that, huh? Okay, fuck you. I'm going to make a console that's going to be more successful than any of your consoles put together. And I'm going to outsell it by like 3 times. Like, that took some cojones.
Oh, it did. And they didn't just try to work with Nintendo. They actually tried working in the same respective matter with Sega. Like, I think they were giving them chips or something like that for their consoles. And, you know, they had something with graphics that were just going to amplify their systems. And Sega, they basically were just like, no, piss off. We don't want you. We're going to do this on our own. We always have. And that, you know, the rest is history. And that was their big kick, basically, $299. That was it. That's all they needed, and it crushed them.
Funny. So wild. So crazy.
It is wild.
So, yeah, just to commemorate once again, before we let you talk about your gift that you're buying yourself,
Rest in peace, E3.
Literally 2 days ago,
Yep.
They said that E3 is no longer. Just rest in peace. You know, you were good at one point. Thanks for the memories. Love you.
Huge loss. But yeah, back to the PS1. So, they came out in 95. I actually didn't hear about that all, folks. I actually hadn't even heard about the PS1 until it was probably well into the year after it came out. And I was just moving into a new home. I was pretty young at this point. I didn't have any friends in the neighborhood yet because I wasn't really going out and meeting people or anything, but a couple of kids across the street, and they're like, hey man, you want to come over and hang out? And so I did, and they introduced me to the PS1. And we played Tekken 2, and man, I was just instantly sold on this whole idea. I was like, wow, we're putting a CD in this thing, and it's playing something that looks like that. Because again, I'm used to the Sega Saturn, where the graphics weren't really great, and this kicked its ass. It was just so much better in every way. Tekken 2 and Tekken 3 are like 2 of my favorite games now because of that. Like, it stuck with me for a pretty long time. But that was, $129.99?
Yeah, I think you got some wiggle room there.
Yeah, I do. I have about $50 odd here to spend yet. So while I wanted to go with something like Jet Moto 2, because that was also one of my big favorite games, that was just a little bit too cheap. And I think I'm going to go with Jersey Devil for $49.99.
Yes, splurge on yourself a bit. Jersey Devil is a very interesting one. A bit of an underrated game, I would say.
It's kind of a flop. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's not a perfect game.
It's rated. It's rated, if anything.
It's rated. Yeah, it's just, it didn't hit the way it was supposed to. I feel like it was a rushed concept. I played it a ton, nonetheless. When I got my PlayStation 1, it actually came with a demo disc that had, like, Tomb Raider, Tekken 3, I think Gex 2, and it also had fucking Jersey Devil on it. I mean, I played it as far as you could play it in this demo thousands of times, without a doubt. I would have loved to have the whole game. Now I do.
Well, now you do. That's right. Circle it in that book, and it's going to appear under your tree on Christmas morning, my boy.
But, yeah, going out with a bang. The N64 and the PS1, both bought in the same Christmas year. This is...
Same Christmas. Can you believe it? Yeah, what a time. What a time to be alive. What a great way to cap off this Wish Book adventure, Grimey.
Absolutely.
He's mischievous. And he's in a city full of tough bosses, mind-bending puzzles, and mutant vegetables. Jersey Devil.
Oh, get off of me!
So before we let you go, we want to just do our final tally here. You want to go first on this here?
Yeah. Well, here it is. $300.
Oh, shit. Taxes not included.
Tax is not included, but you can go through and you can count it. Every last dime that I said that I would spend, or that I could spend, I did spend. Literally right down to the penny. You said at the start of the show, I couldn't go over $300, and I didn't. Not even by a penny, like you said. So I held you to it. I'll even give you all the amounts so you can go through if you want right now. $19.99 for the Alien Anatomy Autopsy toy. The Nintendo 64 was $129.99, and my copy of 1080 Snowboarding was $54.99. My Irwin Top Corner tabletop rod hockey game, what a mouthful, was $79.99. And my How to Draw Cartoons with VHS tape starring Bruce Blitz was $14.99. If you add all that together, it is $300 exact to the penny. No tax. I spent it all. Dare you to do better, Grimey.
I don't think it's going to happen. That's art. All right? That's art. There's got to be some kind of a record.
It's got to be.
All right, so Nickelodeon Time Blaster, $34.99. Lego Stingray Stormer, $64.99. PlayStation 1, $129.99, plus Jersey Devil, which is $49.99. And finally, the 6-inch figure 2-pack Small Soldiers, $19.99. For a grand total of $299.95.
Ooh, I beat you by 5 cents.
5 cents.
If this were Price is Right, I'd be shaking Drew Carey's hand right now.
You got me. You got me. You win this one. You win this one.
It's not a contest. We're all winners here because we all got exactly what we wanted for Christmas, Grimey. And that should be more than a consolation prize. It's a gift.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
So yeah, anyways, this is an idea that you had going way back. I want to say like January 1. You said, we should do this because I have a stack of catalogs that I have not gone through yet. And I said, okay, so you've been basically waiting like a good little boy all year to be able to actually flip through and for the first time in your life, Grimey, circle some items that you wanted from a Christmas catalog. So
absolutely.
I have to ask, as we close out this show, was it everything that you always wanted it to be?
It was. It was pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed this. And what a good boy I was, because before I did anything, really, I came to you with this idea, and I said, okay, buddy, here's the list. Pick your poison. I allowed you to pick the book. You picked 1998. And I even gave you the fair shot of picking all of your picks first before I rummaged through this. I was the greatest boy. All right. Santa Claus has me on the top of his list.
Yeah, so your stocking is going to be as full as hell, let me tell you, because of how good you were.
Yeah, he's probably going to shit in it.
I was going to get a lump of petrified shit in mine, but we're both getting shit for Christmas, you know? It's just how it rolls.
But no, I had a lot of fun doing this one, and we can easily do this again next year, and we just might, you know, given if there's enough demand. So if you like this episode, let us know.
Like perhaps Instagram or even on Threads at Leftover Pizza Podcast.
How about Twitter or X, as the cool kids are calling it these days? Is it X? I don't really understand it.
It's X, and nobody calls it that, so you don't need to.
Okay.
You just call it Twitter.
All right. Well, you can find us there at LFTOVR Pizza Club.
And you can find Leftover Pizza on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. Also on Facebook, if you're already there, you might as well join the Leftover Pizza Club, which is a nice little community where we hang out and chat, and you can find some cool, like-minded peeps to talk about PlayStation and the Jersey Devil and gooey alien autopsy toys. Okay, so go join the Facebook group, the Leftover Pizza Club.
And if that wasn't enough, check out our website, leftoverpizzaclub.com. You can read all kinds of nostalgic articles and junk food reviews. Right now we have our holiday journal, and we've been popping up there every once in a while and plugging away. And it's stuff that we don't typically put on the Instagram or the Facebook, or at least stuff that we don't go in depth as much on. So if you're interested, want to do some light reading, go there too.
We're on Patreon. Yes, I know I keep talking about OnlyFans. We're not there yet, but we are on Patreon. $3 a month gets you access to our exclusive monthly bonus show. We've been doing it all year, so there's 11 or 12 now other episodes up there, full length for you to go listen to, as well as a whole backlog of some old exclusive articles that we're not printing anywhere else. We haven't really been keeping up on those, but they're there to read nonetheless. So, if you feel like supporting us and want some extra exclusive bonus content, if you just can't get enough Grimey and Derek, that's where you need to head.
And lastly, wherever you're listening to us, however you're listening to us, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. It's the season of giving. All that stuff helps a great deal, and we appreciate it very, very much.
Very much. Well, Grimey, I hate to say it, but I'm getting a little sleepy, and I don't think Santa's gonna come unless I'm in bed counting sugar plums.
Oh, sugar plums are starting to dance around in your head? Okay.
Yeah,
we can do that.
I gotta count them. I gotta go to sleep, because otherwise I'm not getting my copy of 1080 Snowboarding, and I'm sure as hell not getting my Alien Goo Boy. So I should dash off to bed so I can hear such a clatter arise above my head.
No, that's the Rose Suchik Ladder Company you're talking about.
Oh.
It's a ladder company. Oh, yeah, it's very nice and a rude to close out the show. Yeah, the whole not a creature with stirring bit, yada yada. Thanks for listening. And have a Merry Christmas.
Have a very Merry
Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. 24 hours, everybody.
24 hours, I'll be there. I'm waiting for you. Come find me. Good night.